right, so as we're talking about the long-term liabilities of a government, let's now talk about terms referred to as debt limit, debt margin, and overlapping debt. When you think about big picture, think of the fact that we have lots of folks interested in the amount of debt that a government currently has, but also their ability to borrow more if and when necessary. Consider also the fact that people are interested in the government's ability to repay debt, not only the principal portion, but also the interest portion. Think of also the fact that not only are the investors in, for example, government bonds interested in the government's ability to pay, but creditors and others who are affected by the government's ability to pay, whether it be the citizens who own property or the businesses that may own property within a particular jurisdiction of a government, but also companies that may sell items, goods, and services to the government. Of course, they're going to be concerned with risk. All right, so you guys should have learned in earlier classes that risk is very much related to the amount that people are willing to put at risk, but also the amount of return they are requiring for the amount of risk they're subject to. So bond rating companies, organizations, if you will, and bond analysts, all of these people are reviewing this information. So as you think about it, the more debt, then the more risk. And the more risk, the higher the interest rate. The more debt, the more taxes. All right, so it's all very related. In regards to debt limit, we're basically referring to the amount that is maximum. What is the debt limit or the debt ceiling? And in essence, it's the total amount of specific type of debt or indebtedness that's allowed by law at a given point in time. So it's statutory, it's legislatively set, and of course, reset when necessary. It can be stated in a dollar amount, but more likely it's going to be stated in a percentage. And it can be a percentage of assessed value of property or a percentage of actual value of property. Right? So again, we're talking about, for example, property taxes. What is the assessed value of the property within a jurisdiction? All right, so within a jurisdiction, we typically are looking at only the tax-paying properties. All right, there are certain types of properties that are excluded or exempted, either in whole or in part, from paying taxes. For example, any government properties, churches, charities. In some areas, veterans of our armed forces have no taxes or reduced taxes. Farmland can have a reduced tax. There's a lot of different things out there that are done in order to reduce certain types of entities or individuals or organizations' taxes. So consider debt limits need to be looking at what is available by tax-paying properties only. So debt limits are necessary. If we don't put a cap on what they can in essence charge up in the taxpayer's name, it could get out of control. In regards to debt margin, basically what we're talking about is the difference between the debt limit that we just discussed minus the net amount of outstanding debt subject to limitations. So what debt is there that is subject to being limited, and what is the net amount of it that's outstanding? The difference between those two numbers equals the debt margin. In other words, how much more can we borrow if necessary? So it's borrowing power. Something that needs to be considered here. When you go about calculating this, if there has been any debt that has been authorized but is unissued as of this time, then that amount that has been authorized needs to be disclosed because it should be considered. Because when you're evaluating scenarios, it could actually finally be issued and sold at any time, which would of course affect your calculations and your numbers. So if it's been authorized, even though it's not been issued, it needs to be considered. Overlapping debt is when one parcel of land is within the jurisdiction of several governmental entities. In my personal scenario or case here, I'm subject to Tennessee, Hamilton County, and the city of Chattanooga based on where our home is. So you're basically subject to the indebtedness of each of those governments, and therefore beyond any legal limit is possible due to the fact that I'm within multiple jurisdictions. In regards to direct debt and overlapping debt, we have disclosures that need to be put together. So we can put together a statement of direct and overlapping debt with additional information that our users can use. It should be prepared for the particular governmental entity that we're working on and its own jurisdiction, and that's the direct amount of debt. But when we supply this information, we are also going to include the amount of overlapping debt. So just like in my example, if we're looking at the city of Chattanooga's debt, the city of Chattanooga is within Hamilton County, and then Hamilton County is within Tennessee. So we would have all of the debt in addition to the city of Chattanooga's that applies to the city of Chattanooga jurisdiction. So direct debt is due from the particular government plus the overlapping debt, which is the amounts due by the other governmental entities with the same jurisdictional boundaries. Adding those two numbers together, you get total debt.